too. Then I guess you got it like that. Dick in the thighs and that ass so fat. They hate it when you get attention. When you walk by, they don't say nothing. They jealous. They be jealous. Them fools, they so jealous. They be jealous. Turn heads when she walk in. Superstar paparazzi start flocking. As the beat starts knocking, shorty hit the dance floor, ass start dropping. She's truly independent. She's grinding and she's winning. The other girls pretending, not stopping till she finished. She ain't got no man unless you got them bands. You ain't got no chance. Why these hoes be hating? The drama they're creating, but it ain't even phasing you, 'cause you're amazing. You got it like that. Dick in the thighs and that ass so fat, so fat. When you get attention, when you walk by, they don't say nothing. They're jealous, yeah. They be jealous. Them hoes so jealous. They be jealous. She like the room when she enters, everyone's attention, she is the center. Fellas double take when they see her, watch her transform as the beat hits the speaker. Shawty ain't no average chick, unless you coming with those bands, no she's not having it, no. She ain't got no man, unless you got them bands, no. Why these hoes be hating? The drama they're creating, but it ain't even phasing you, 'cause you're amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So fast, so fast. When you get attention, don't say nothing. You're jealous. They be jealous. These hoes so jealous. Jealous, yeah.
I know you see them hoes barking over there, 'cause everybody in the club stop and stare. Them thick thighs in the ass, Ric Flair. Please remind them as you walking over here. Just pop it and lock it, then drop it, don't stop it. You the hot topic, they know you got options. They jealous as toxic, they harmless, no caution. Just do it, go do it, do it. Clap for me, mommy, clap, clap for me, mommy. Make it boom back for me, mommy. Frame on time, hourglass type of body with an apple bottom. She don't need jeans for it, only shake what your mama gave you. Shake, shake, take it all, money made good. Take, look at they faces, the wrinkles, they stressing, rebellious. No, they jealous.
Why they so
hoes.
mad though? Got it like that. Yeah, yeah. When you get attention, when you walk by, they don't say nothing. They jealous. They be jealous. Them hoes, they so jealous. They be jealous. These hoes so jealous.
What up, what up, what up?
What it do?
This is episode 06 of the Back Talk Podcast. I got my co-host Jay Breezy.
Yes, sir. How everybody doing out there?
Got the producer Laker Alex. And we have a very, very, very special guest. And I'm looking forward to this interview. TED Talk speaker. Writer. Fox News contributor. Journalist.
A little bit.
There you go. Let's put it out there.
Inspiration to all women.
I wouldn't go that far, but I try.
Inspiration to women.
I try to
Okay.
empower women.
Okay, okay. Author.
Yes.
Yes, so I have Akemia Deadweiler, author, TED Talk speaker of the book, Single That. You get it on Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy your books online.
All right. So is there an audiobook to this also?
There is an audiobook if you're a person.
Is it your voice or is it like the robot
It's my
voice?
No.
Oh, that's dope.
It's
That's
my voice. I recorded it because I know not everyone is a reader. So if you're more of a listen, audiobook, I did do one, and it is me talking.
So how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's a little hot, but I'm feeling good.
A little hot.
It's a
Yeah,
smidget.
I mean, it's
Move back home for
1:15.
this
My
heat.
gosh. How much hot do you need it?
I saw the devil and Lucifer. outside.
I'm feeling good, though. I'll take the heat over the cold and the snow where I'm from any day. So
Okay, we'll definitely get into that. Well, welcome to the Bag Talk. We glad that you decided to come on and discuss with us. So
well, thank you for having me. I
we'll make
appreciate
this
it.
as unpleasant
Yeah,
as
you're more than
possible. And, we'll let you speak your piece.
Now let's get into it.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah,
All right,
dog.
she ready,
You don't gotta
Breezy.
be nice. Let's
Nah,
let's
she
do
ain't
it.
scared.
Oh, man, that's no
She
fun.
from the trenches. She know what it's about.
Right.
So we'll just start from the beginning like we usually do. Tell us about your humble beginnings and where you from and how you matriculated out to Las Vegas.
Hmm. Well, I'm from Gary, Indiana, just
Ooh,
like
Gary.
this guy to my
GI.
left. Yeah.
Gary?
You didn't know that?
Yeah,
That's
You
your
know what?
co-host.
Nah,
You didn't know that?
Everything
No,
makes
okay,
a lot of sense
Hold
now.
on, hold on.
That makes sense.
See, this is what he get. This is what he. Okay, we're gonna put this on the record, all right? Now everybody know I'm originally from the south side of Chicago, but Gary, that's my home. That's my second home. Like I did a lot in Gary. You know what I'm saying? Worked there.
Oh, you
lived
worked-
there.
You
Remember I
worked
told
in
you I
Gary or
at US
you worked
Steel.
in Gary?
Worked at US Steel.
Oh, U.S. Steel. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I guess.
Yeah. So that's how we met.
I'm
through
just
a
trying to
mutual-
make sure what
that's how
type
me-
of work you was talking about.
Oh well, we ain't gonna talk.
Can't talk
come on,
about
we
that
can't talk
one.
about that. This dude right here. You gonna put me out there like that? boy.
I ain't put you, I just said work. That's all I said. Man.
Well, that's how me and Akamia met. We met
Oh,
through a mutual
cool.
friend of ours, and just we all from day one we all hit it off. We kept in touch with each other. We stayed cool, X, Y, and Z, and she actually was here before me,
Oh,
a
cool.
few years before me. So when I got here, they the first people I hit up like, hey, we here, X, Y, and Z. It took a minute because COVID.
Yeah.
COVID interrupted
Another one of my
everything.
authors, favorite authors, is from Gary, Indiana. Alan Roger Curry. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar
no,
with
I
him.
haven't, but that's
He
interesting.
wrote a book called Mode 1.
Okay.
It's
I'm
kind of
gonna
like
check it
he's like the complete opposite of what your message is.
out. The complete opposite.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if y'all was to have a conversation.
So we need to get them on the platform together.
Oh, have
'cause
an
I
Alan
got-
Roger Curry on here? Oh man.
No, I said on the platform. I don't know.
Oh man, that would be crazy. Just look up Mode 1.
Okay.
You're gonna be like, wow,
Yeah, I might
okay.
have to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm from Gary. I moved here maybe about, I'd say it's going on 10 years. I've been here a minute now.
hmm
And, I just wanted more opportunities,
Okay.
a bigger area. Gary is kind of small, which
Yeah.
limits opportunities.
I see that.
And so that's what I wanted more of, just more opportunities, more experiences
Let
that I
us
can
know.
have and all of that. I love collecting new experiences. So that was a big reason I made the move, and it turned out to be, a good one.
Okay. So you've been out here in Vegas a while. What was your first impressions of Vegas? Was it a culture shock?
No, it wasn't a culture shock. I was more so in awe, like, wow. Because when you come to Vegas and to Vegas and you, not probably like you're thinking, but
No, I know what you're saying.
yeah. But when you come to Vegas and you stay on the strip, you think that's Vegas.
That's it.
So
Right,
when I
exactly.
started visiting the residential areas, I was like, well, it's actually nice
another
out
city.
here. Yeah, it's actually nice out here, and there's clean neighborhoods and parks, and there's the mountains,
Fresh,
and
clean.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Not
was like,
polluted.
right. And I was like, this is just amazing. I was doing things I'd never done before, like getting up in the morning and jogging around the park.
Right.
Like, that's not something you do
No,
in Gary,
not
right?
at all.
Nah, you ain't gonna do that
jogging
in
away
Gary.
from everything
You ain't
else
making
in
it
Gary.
home.
Right. So simple things like that, just waking up in the morning and going for a jog, It's like, this is
Okay.
a whole nother world.
get
But
that.
I loved it.
I totally get that because there's not many mountains in Detroit. Well, there's no
Okay.
mountains.
Midwest, too.
We just
Oh,
got
yeah,
the
you
giant
can
slide.
D-town.
That's it.
7
and
miles, 8 miles.
yeah, what you know about 7 miles, man?
Yeah, I was there before, man. Our mutual friend EJ, shout out to EJ. His family from Detroit, so I used to go to Detroit with him. You know what I'm saying? And was out there for the Super Bowl. We.
Oh, you was there for the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
huh?
I was there.
Okay, all right.
I was there.
Fair weather.
Bad weather
Fair
at all.
weather
You know what I'm
visitor.
saying? It was a snowstorm
Yeah,
for that
see?
Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was.
Couldn't
it was.
do nothing out there in Detroit.
Can't even really
Okay.
enjoy
You
it.
couldn't enjoy it.
You said you couldn't.
Yeah,
Ain't
you
no,
pull
not
up
really.
and jump
You
out and go
couldn't.
right in and come right out. It wasn't no hanging out
Right,
or fraternizing, none of that.
Right.
Okay. So, we definitely want to get into the book and what all that means. But before we get into that, like, what inspires you to even come to that conclusion? That's a bold move to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Because you're open to criticism, you're open
Yeah.
to
Yeah, you are.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are, and that's something that I had to grow into. I always kind of avoided criticism or took it to heart. So my writing career started as a sports writer. I was writing for Yahoo Sports.
Oh,
so I
wow,
was,
okay.
yeah, so I was covering the Chicago Bulls, the WNBA Chicago Sky. I did Michael Jordan's charity basketball tournament. So
Oh,
I was
sweet.
so I was loving it. But writing for Yahoo opened me up to a lot of criticism. I mean, it was early in my writing career. I'm probably 100 times the writer that I was then. You know, I was just starting out. So I started to get a taste of that criticism, and for a while, it made me like not want to write anymore. I just had to mature a little bit and develop thicker skin and become more confident in who I am. And I think doing the work and working on your craft naturally builds that confidence, because then you get to a point where you say, I know what I'm doing, I've done the work, you know, and you just feel more confident in that. But when you're just starting out and you don't really know, it's easy for, you know, you to take criticism to heart. Now, now I take it, I use it more as a learning experience. Fortunately, I would say 99% of the feedback I've received to my book has been positive. So I haven't really been tested that way. But if I do receive criticism, as long as it's respectful, I try to take it as a learning experience, you know. But that's not my first book. So, yeah, so my first book, what inspired me to even start writing books was just feeling like I needed a release. I had always been a very reserved person that internalized things. I didn't really talk about the way that I felt or things that I may have been embarrassed about or anything that hurt me. And so I started writing for that reason, kind of like journaling, but publicly. And I loved it. And then I wrote another book. And I got into kind of a rhythm. But with this one, it's easily been my most successful. And this one, I was just like, this book needs to be written. The other ones were kind of just for me, like as a release, but the idea for this one just kind of like burned in me, and I was like, this book needs to be written, and I just got to it.
Gotcha. You know, I do want to talk about your experience on Yahoo.
Okay.
Because I've heard some things about Yahoo. I just want you to confirm that.
Sure.
But just the style and just the art of writing, I think it's something that has been a lost art. And can you just talk about kind of like the sciences of writing? Because I think that's kind of been a skill that's been now moving into the digital age. That's kind of like walked away, because people don't really write. Most people don't even have pens and pencils just in their house.
Yeah, kids aren't even learning cursive in school anymore. Like,
no.
it's insane.
No.
Yeah.
Used to have that. That was like
Right.
one-on-one.
Right. Now they're typing on laptops.
Right.
They can't even sign their names.
no. They taking the laptops home these days.
Right. But yeah, writing is definitely a skill, and I love it just as an art form. So there are people who write because you say, oh, I'm going to try to sell some books and make some money, so you're looking at it that way as a hustle. But I'm someone, and there's nothing wrong with that if you can do it. You know, more power to you, because with self-publishing, anybody can write a book nowadays.
Absolutely.
Anybody can put anything out there. But I'm someone who writes more from a love of the art. So I really work on the craft. I've had writing coaches. I've gone to seminars and just really worked to get as good as I possibly could, because I do think writing is a skill that's undervalued. Like, people think, oh, it's just anybody can write, but it's really not that simple. And it's not even just about grammar and spelling. It's about the way that you say things, you know,
Right.
putting your words and your sentences together in a way that resonate with people and convey the message that you want to convey. So it is a skill to it, and yeah, oftentimes a lot of people don't respect that part of it.
Okay. So, you know, because it seems like when I think of a book, you know, most of the books I do is self-help. I don't do a lot of...
I read a lot of self-help too.
Okay. So how do you get the emotion into what you're saying to the actual reader? Especially having more of a predominantly women audience.
I tell a lot of stories. I think that's always a way to connect with people is through storytelling, because you engage someone when you start to tell a story, and then maybe it's a story they can relate with. And then I also ensure that I'm not speaking in a way where it's like I'm telling you what to do or I'm telling you what to think, I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble as well. It's more so, if this happens, then this, or this is how I feel, and maybe you should try this, but I'll never be the one to come out here and be like, you should do X, Y, Z. I'll present the case for why you should do X, Y, Z, but ultimately the decision is up to you. So I think that's the most effective way to get your message across, is you don't want to come out preachy or like you're telling people what to do. I'll present the information, I'll present my position and my perspective, and hopefully you draw the conclusion that I'm leading you towards, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. It makes perfect sense. And I think there's a lot more accountability with writing, because once you've written it and printed, like,
it's out there.
There's no going back.
No, it's there.
Yeah.
And it seems like now with people that's in this YouTube space, social media space, they can always change their message. Like they can come off like, women are the bomb and women need to, I'm gonna empower women. Then I can switch it up and say, oh, women, y'all need to get y'all shit together and y'all need to do this and y'all ain't on top of y'all game. Like I can switch it, but I can't do that with a book. So talk about those two dynamics and what your feelings on that is.
Yeah, and I think we see a lot of people do that. You might start out, like you said, if you have a video series, you start out one way and say, this is going to be my message. Like you said, women are the bomb, for example. And then let's say you do one show where you're criticizing women and it blows up. So you're like, oh no, I'm going to talk about this. Right, that's what I'm going to talk about. Right, but you can't really do that with a book, because like you said, once it's out there. I can't go back and change it into a totally different message. But that's kind of what I love about it, and like it's authentic, and like you said, it does hold you accountable for the words that you put down on the page, and that's something I welcome. I've always been a fan of accountability, and I'm always open to learning and improving myself, as a person, not just as a writer, but as a person. So I'm always open to that feedback and being held accountable for anything that I write. But it's definitely a huge difference.
Gotcha.
Well, let me ask you this. With writing, have you thought about expanding from books to like miniseries, or writing for like TV or anything like that?
I have. Like it's a dream of mine to like write a screenplay or something like that. But I know also, again, out of respect for the craft, I'm not just going to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a screenplay. I would want to learn, the mechanics of it and, what elements I need to be able to do that. So it'll probably never be my number one thing, but it's definitely something I would like to do, just because I enjoy writing in every format for every aspect.
Gotcha. Now, how long did it take you to write this book?
It took me, I want to say a couple years, maybe 3 years, but that's because I did it on and off. Like I wrote a couple chapters and then I forgot about it. And then I released a different book that was almost complete, forgot about it. And then I was like, I need to finish this. Like, this is the one. This is the one that's going to resonate with the most people. This is the one that has the most clear and distinct message. And, the most specific message. Is not just, here's some stuff that I've been through and, lessons from that area, which are good too, but it's more ambiguous, where it's just like, here's some everyday struggles. But this one was so specific, and the audience for it, I thought, would really benefit from it, and it would be the one that did well, and it did. It kind of blew up on me. So.
Oh, it did. It did good. I followed it. I mean, when I saw you put it out, I was like, hey, let me get a copy. I'm not even, I supported it, but I mean, I have girls, so it's like, this is something that you want your daughters to read and to hear, that message, so they know that you don't necessarily need a man to fulfill your livelihood, your life. You know what I'm saying? So I like the messages because I have girls, and I want them to hear something positive, from that aspect.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about the book before they actually take the time to read it, is they think the book is about not wanting a man or not needing a man,
exactly.
And it's not about that. It's just about not attaching your sense of self-worth to that relationship, or to that person that you're with. It's about being comfortable and confident in who you are as a woman, and not saying, you know, because if that person leaves, if your sense of self-worth is attached to that person in that relationship, when they leave, they take it with them.
Exactly.
You know, so it's about just not attaching who you are and how you feel about yourself to that person or to that relationship.
And I love that message because it is a two-way street.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. But I mean, for the most part in our society, that's the stigmatism that most females get. That once they man leave, they have nothing. Who am I? Or sometimes they'll stay longer than they should because they feel as though this is all they know.
Yeah.
This is what's best for me. This is what's best for the kids. I know even in my past relationship, I stayed just because of the kids, knowing that it didn't work, it wasn't a good fit. But we got kids, I'm gonna work it out. But if you're unhappy,
yeah, the best thing for your kids is for you to be happy.
Yeah,
you know,
'cause you can't
a
be
happy parent is a better parent. You know,
Exactly, right.
so that's true. You stay in relationships for a lot of reasons, and usually it is outside appearances. You know,
Right.
what are people going to think? And then, especially with women, you think it reflects negatively on you if your relationship ends or the person you're with leaves. It's like, oh, what's wrong with her? You know, so you stay in relationships where you're treated poorly. And there's all these issues, but you don't want anybody to say like, oh, she can't keep a man.
well,
you know?
too, but that's a good point because even like from our neck of the woods, it's so small, so condensed that everybody pretty much knows everybody. So when you break up, I don't want him to talk to her. And he better not talk to her, so I'm gonna just hold it. I'm gonna just stay to make them miserable, so he don't go to the next person.
Right. So nobody else can have them.
Exactly. Especially somebody that we know. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too is tied to like self-perception and like I said, this sense of failing. Like if you're married and a marriage ends, you think you failed.
Right.
You know, at the marriage or your relationship ends, you think you failed. And I honestly feel like you can never fail when you love someone, because to say that is to say that there's a goal. Like, the goal of loving someone, I believe, is to love them, is to love and be loved. Who says that marriage has to be the goal? And then once you get married, now we move the measuring stick again. Now we have to stay married forever and ever, or we failed. You know, I think if you love that person well and you know you were loved in return, then there's no such thing.
If you truly love somebody, regardless of if you stay married or you don't, or stay in a relationship you don't, true love stands the test of time. You should always have that person in your life in some aspect if you truly love that person. A lot of times we get into these relationships and we just break things off because we so in our feelings and anger and vengeance that we start developing false hate for a person that's really not there. You know?
Yeah. But I do just feel like there's no such thing as a failed relationship, because to say that there is a failed relationship means that there's some goal that you were supposed to get to that you didn't get to.
That's
The goal of loving
You
someone
hear
is
that,
to
people?
love them.
You hear that, people? You heard that on Bag Talk.
So
Put that in your bag.
Akemi, I heard that you mentioned like Yahoo Sports. So I heard that perhaps they're not the most progressive organization.
You
So
know?
how did you? Well, I guess maybe just independent of that. How did you take? Because you seem like a very free thinker, like you kind of think on your own. How did you take experiences like being in those type of environments, along with relationships, to help you like write this book?
Well, first about Yahoo.
Make sure I clarify this real quick.
When I wrote for Yahoo, it was probably 10 years ago. That was something I was doing before I moved here, and I kind of wrapped it up once I did. So I can't, and I only did it for a year.
Okay.
So I can't really speak to how progressive they are or not.
Right.
They were good to me. You know,
Okay,
it was
that's
probably
good. That's
it was
good.
probably the first writing job where I made significant money, because it's kind of hard to make money in writing, because like I was saying, it is an undervalued skill. People think, oh, why should I pay you all that to write this when I can get this person to do it for this? And they think it's all the same when it's not. So yeah, Yahoo was good to me. It was a great experience.
okay,
so I
cool,
can't really
cool.
speak to all of that.
Okay.
That's not what I was. That's not what I heard.
Well, I guess, and even just independent of that, what experiences that kind of like stand out to you just in life that kind of helped you write this book?
Just going an extended period of time as a single woman, and an extended period of time as a single woman as I got older, because I am a much different woman now than I was in my 20s. You know, dating and relationships are a lot different. I know myself better. I understand love better. You know, I'm more comfortable with vulnerable and intimacy and all those things you need for a relationship. So just going through that period as I got older and in a space where I was more mature really helped, and I got to just really hear the negative things that people would say about women that are single and the negative assumptions they would make. I can't even count the number.
What's some of the?
I'm about to tell you.
Some of the assumptions?
I can't even count how many dates I went on, and one of the first questions they asked was like, "So why are you single?" It's like,
like there's something wrong with
yeah,
you.
exactly. Like there's something wrong with you. Like it's a circumstance that you have to answer for. You can't just be single. There has to be a reason. I've had people straight up. You got something to say?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Okay.
I've had people straight up say, you know, if you find me attractive, they'll say, "Oh, you're attractive, you're successful. What's wrong with you? There must be a catch." You know,
you crazy?
right? You're crazy.
Right, yeah.
So that's one of the myths that I dispel. You're crazy.
Okay.
You're hard to love. You're broken somehow, and there's
You
you're
hear
broken.
that all the time. Yeah.
Right, you're broken somehow, or even just that you're profoundly lonely. You know, like loneliness is a natural human condition. We all feel lonely, but there's this idea that a single woman is profoundly more lonely than the average person, because you can't be a woman and not be lonely if you're
so when you're a
alone.
woman, you gotta get a cat, you gotta
Right,
get a
right.
dog, turtle, and all this.
Right,
crazy-
but if you're a man, you're just having
You a player,
fun.
you a player.
You're a
Yeah,
bachelor,
You're living
right?
your best
living
life.
your best life.
Especially
Exactly,
being here in
exactly.
Vegas,
Well,
that
I'm gonna be-
connotation there.
But I'm gonna keep stuff a buck though. That's another false pretense. Because I talk to a lot of people who, you know, a lot of the fellas, they can say what they want, fellas. I'm sorry, keep it 100. Y'all go through those points where you like, man, I wish I had somebody laid up with, a boot up with.
I wish
Not
I had
even in the wintertime.
I wish I had a Heathcliff in
You
the
know what I'm saying? You know, that's why when tax season comes and it's cold, they be out there trying to find the first thing they can cuddle up with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you do. A lot
That's
of
real
men do.
spill.
But that's the thing. Even though there's men that feel that way, that's not the perception.
No, it's
You
not.
know, when you tell someone you're single, it's, oh, he's not ready to be tied down. He's having fun. He's a bachelor. But a woman, it's like, explain yourself. Explain the situation, you know? So that's what
Why
kind of
is
inspired
that?
me.
Like, why do you think that is?
I think that a lot of it has to do with historical gender roles in our society. You know, from historically, women have stayed at home and taken care of kids and been wives, and they didn't really do much else. And you were married off at a young age, and we're taught to aspire to marriage. You know, even in like Disney movies. The princess waits for the prince to come and save her, you know? So it's a lot of things that go into this perception that we have of women and what we're supposed to aspire to, and we have been trained to aspire to marriage, and so that's how society views women, and so you just automatically think, if we get into a relationship, I'm going to pressure you to marry me, you know, because you've been shown and we've been shown that that's what women are supposed to aspire to.
Got you. So, I guess then, what's the alternative then? You know, what do you say to maybe? I'll just say hypothetically. You know, Carol, we'll just call her. She's 40. Maybe she's been divorced for 5 years, and she's like going into her 40s, and she's maybe got a mid-level like management job. So things are just kind of like there's really no movement activity. Like, what do you tell to those type of women to kind of like, where do they go from there from that point?
And Carol aspires to be married.
Maybe she just doesn't know. Like, she just doesn't
Okay.
know anything. Like, she's just trying
Yeah.
to see like what's the next step. Maybe it could be, but you know, I think a lot of people, they just don't even know like what to do. Like, do
Yeah.
you agree with that? Like,
Well, not even not to know what to do. I think, I mean, that's a good point, bro. But I think sometimes they're confused because of not just females, males as well. They're confused because maybe it didn't work early on, so now they don't want to tie back down into a commitment. They might want to focus on their life goals, but they still get lonely. Like you said, it's a natural feeling, natural thing. So they might not be willing to take that full dive in a committed relationship. I think a lot of people these days are scared of commitment. It's so much social, it's so much interaction.
But
with
people want
everybody's
it, though.
stuff. They want it, but they don't know how to go about it because everybody's tied into everything now. It's different from when we grew up. We didn't have social media growing up.
Yeah.
You
I think
know?
it's that FOMO, that fear of missing out.
Oh,
Like
okay. That
there
makes sense.
people are so accessible now.
Exactly.
So you get with someone and you commit to this person, then it's like, well, who else is out here?
Well, wait
What
a
about
minute, you
this
just put that
person?
picture up and you dated that
Right,
person too. You're like, damn.
right. Before you had to kind of run into somebody in person or see them somewhere. Now you're on social media or you're on Instagram and you see all these, just not
Who
you,
did they
but
like your picture?
right,
Dated her before?
right. Or even you in a committed relationship seeing pictures of all these beautiful women and they're accessible to you. You know, you can slide in their DMs. So I think it really takes, a person of integrity who kind of has mastered themselves a bit to not fall into those traps.
Yeah. Just
But-
don't be on social media.
Just
Just
don't
cut it
have
out.
it.
It
Yeah, if you
doesn't-
know
yeah.
you can't handle it, if you know it's too much for you and you haven't mastered yourself that way, just don't have it.
Well, social media ruined a lot of relationships. I can tell you that now.
Right. Or don't get into a committed relationship. That's the part that, confuses me. It's like, why get into a relationship if you know that you still want to talk to other people and go on dates, and if you know this is a struggle for you, like, why do it?
Exactly.
It goes back to what I said about us doing things because we think we're supposed to do them. So if we use the example of how you said, like, why is the perception different for women? We've been raised to aspire to marriage, and all of you have been taught that women aspire to marriage, and so a woman that doesn't do that, you think there's something wrong with her. It's something wrong with it.
That's exactly what
Yeah,
it
so
is.
we do things because we think we're supposed to do them without actually exploring whether or not it's something we want to do.
That's for us, right?
Okay. So this is my question to you,
Okay.
Miss Detweiler. What about the women who actually do want to get married? What about them?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And like, that's the thing. I'm not trying to convince.
So what should it mean? Like, how should they, wrap it around their head? Because to some women, it might just be that's it. Like, they just want to get to that pinnacle. So what should be the proper mindset with that?
I think that's okay. I think we were talking a little bit off air about how I think that's a misconception about my book. Like, I'm not convincing anyone to be single or stay single. I'm just saying don't attach your sense of self-worth to your relationship status.
Right.
So if you are a woman and you aspire to marriage and committed relationship, and that's one of your life goals, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, like you said, the mindset should just be explore why you want that and work on yourself to feel whole and complete, so that when you do get that, you don't automatically attach your sense of self-worth to that marriage. Because like we were saying, I've seen people, stay in bad marriages because you don't want to look like you failed, or you don't want people to see that, oh, we didn't make it, or this person divorced me, or this person left me. Your sense of self-worth is attached to it, where you feel like less than if it doesn't work out, or if you are single, or you can't find a husband if that's something that you want. So I would say just try to focus on yourself and building yourself up to where you feel like a whole person and you feel like enough, so that when you do, get married, however it goes, it doesn't affect the way that you feel about
You
yourself.
can just kind of keep it pushing. Is there anybody that comes to your mind that kind of like sets that example, that president out there?
The precedent of just being whole.
Yeah, just like the self-worth. Maybe they in a relationship. They maybe in a, do you think it's somebody like a Michelle Obama? Like, who do you think comes to, like, what type of women do you think of when that message comes across?
When I think about it, I think of women like Oprah. Like she's had
She leads the
She's
pack.
made a lot of money. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's made a lot of money for sure. Right. The pool house.
Right.
The pool
Yeah,
house.
I mean, he stays in another house. I mean, that, on her
Right,
property.
right,
It's
but
paying the light bills. For sure.
Yeah, that's it.
but yeah, she's had a long time partner, but she's never married.
Shout
and
out to
she's
Stedman.
never right. Shout out to Stedman. She's never married and she's never had children, and that's not to say that you have to do those things, but it hasn't seemed to affect her sense of self. She's still Oprah. She's still going to get out there and do what she do and tell it like it is, and she doesn't seem to be lacking in confidence. So I think of like an example like that where her sense of self-worth doesn't seem to be attached to her relationship status, where she never gave in to pressure to marry Stedman or have kids to prove her womanhood, because oftentimes I think that's what it is. We let people plant these seeds in our heads, and we have to do these certain things to prove our womanhood to the world. And so just women who don't adopt that principle or succumb to that idea are who I think about fit the perspective.
Well, she's the poster child for that.
Right. For sure.
So it seems like a lot of the kind of great writers, as far as women concerned, like for instance, black women, they have been single. Mm-hmm. It seems like, like Maya Angelou.
Yeah, she was. That's true. That's true.
Single. I don't think Sister Soldier. I don't think she ever got.
I don't know about.
I don't know. I can't say. Sister Soldier was kind of tough back in the day. So
I mean, you got Michelle Alexander. She wrote like the new Jim Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not married. Like a lot. I can't name all of them, but it seems like it's something synonymous about that. Like,
but think about
maybe
the name.
when you're an author, you're kind of like more of a free thinker. Do men have a problem with you being like an independent thinker? You think?
Some of them do.
Okay.
Some of
Just
them do. Yeah. Some of them. Yeah, I can't even say all. Like,
okay.
I'll never be like, all men are this or that, because I've actually been in some great relationships with good men. It's, so I don't even have that experience where all men are this or they didn't understand. But some of them have been like, oh, you need too much time to yourself. You need too much time for your goals. And I'm the type of guy that wants to be with my lady every second of the day, every day. And I'm just like, well, then I'm probably not the person for you, because I do have ambitions and diverse interests, and I may think maybe that is a part of it. And I didn't even think about that. That's interesting how a lot of the big women writers have been historically single. I know Maya Angelou had other things going on, like she was raped and things like that, so that may have played a role.
Yeah, Frances Cress Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, but I definitely think that could be part of it. Not all men are necessarily comfortable with a woman who has these other things going on outside of them and outside of the family, and giving her that time to write and have all these endeavors and pursuits. But I think when it's something that you really want in a relationship that you really want, like, I'll make time for a person that I'm really into. But if you're a guy who needs, your woman at your hip all day, every day, then yeah, I'm probably not the one for you. And a lot of men do want that.
When you're a writer, you got to be kind of like witty and a quick thinker, so you probably like a hard person to argue with. Like, you probably don't lose a lot of arguments. So I like to win arguments. So
see,
I like to win.
See,
you're like, no, you too good at arguing.
See, well, number one, I don't argue.
See, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there. You don't argue.
Right.
Number one, I don't argue. I feel like, two adults should be able to have a discussion about their disagreements. And in that discussion, it's not about...
A forum?
Yeah, not a forum, a discussion. But that discussion isn't about winning or losing. It's about you being understood and me being understood.
But that's a good segue, because most of the time when we do have conversations, we don't communicate to listen. We communicate to
respond.
To respond, retort,
to win, like you said.
Exactly, like me.
You say something, the first thing you're doing is thinking of a comeback to try to excuse or justify.
Yeah, you're not even really listening.
You're not listening to the point. And that's why sometimes it's good when you're in a serious committed relationship that you might have to have counseling or something where you can have a mediator kind of show you where you're lacking in communicating. Yeah. So some people don't communicate. They just talk to be talking.
Yeah, a neutral third party.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, like you said.
But that's where a lot of they're not just marriages but relationships fail at, the lack of communication. And the assumption that something is there that is not because of the lack of communication.
Yeah, and then like you said, a lot of times when you do try to talk about it, the person isn't listening to what you have to say. They want to be right, so they're waiting for their turn to interject and tell you, why you're wrong and they're right.
And then next thing you know, tempers get to flaring because this person ain't listening, and they think they right, and then now next thing you know, you're not speaking for a few days.
Yeah, and I think that's natural. That's probably a natural response. So you kind of have to consciously unravel that, unlearn that, and consciously try to be a better communicator. What was that?
Coach Amber. Get with my girl Candy and get with her now.
Yeah.
So, Akamia, do you have like an aha moment with this book, Single That? Is there like kind of like that one cornerstone message that kind of like sets the foundation for like the whole book? I know you did mention like identity, having your own sense of identity. Like, what is kind of like a deeper level of that's really at the core of this book?
Yeah, what's really at the core is just not giving away your power, I think, to a relationship or to a partner, because that's the core of the message. It's not you should be single or you should be in a relationship. It's that you are a whole and innately valuable person with or without a partner. And that's the gist of it. That's the core of it. And so I go through these 10 myths just to try to show this to you, like why it could be true that we all have work to do. It's not saying that anybody is perfect, but we all have room to grow. But just this idea that because you're a single woman, based solely on the idea that you're single, you have more work to do than everyone else. Based solely on that idea, doesn't matter how successful you are, how much else you've accomplished. If you're single or you've been single for an extended period of time, that's used to determine that you have more room to grow and you're more broken than the average person.
That's true. Because I was talking to my trainer, and most of his female women that he trains are women that's just getting out of a relationship. And I just found that interesting to see, like, why is that? Why you feel like, okay, now I'm single now I have to do X, Y, and Z instead of
I
like
gotta get
doing
fine,
it anyway.
Well, but that's a good point, because most women, to be honest, they lose themselves in that relationship to where their focus is just on that relationship. Then when they become single, I want to do something for me.
You
And
can
the first
focus
thing
on me
is
again.
going to the gym, releasing a lot of stress, tension, anxiety, whatever it may be, and they start working out, and then they get their self-confidence back.
I'll be like, well, where was all that back then? That's what I'm saying.
It comes from me, just my perspective. It comes from lack of communication.
Right,
But
right.
a lot of times we don't make time to work out with each other. That's something. If you're in a relationship, you like to work out. Hey, baby, let's get up, let's go work out. Now, me and you
Let's
doing
go
this
run.
together. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, like, no, I'm gonna go by myself because I gotta get away from you for a minute. Then it leads to them feeling insecure, or they down and out. Well, I'm not even gonna go. I'm gonna just stay here and do this.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, wanting to do some things alone, because you do need that time your space to yourself. But you made a good point. Like, when you're a lot of times in relationships, you do put so much focus on the other person that you forget about yourself. You forget about what you need and what you want and what you like, and the things you used to do before you got in the relationship. You're not doing them anymore because you're just putting all of your focus on the other person. And like you said, you lose yourself. So when that relationship is over, you start to think of, well, like, what do I want? Because sadly, for so long, you probably didn't ask yourself that question. You didn't ask yourself what I want. It was all about pleasing this other person. And then too, like, the relationship may have cut down your self-esteem a little bit. So you feel like you need to get in the gym and make yourself desirable again, and raise your self-esteem. Yeah.
Die every man, black woman.
Got you.
That's the first thing that come to mind. That's kind of how depicted her character was, how she lost herself,
Yeah.
did everything to boost her man, his success, and then when he got there, his plateau, like, oh, I don't want you anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Tyler Perry.
Waiting to exhale, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then she didn't know who
Angela
she
Bassett,
was.
yeah, right.
She didn't know who she was without that relationship, without that partner. So I think that's part of it, just rediscovering yourself and what you want again.
Right.
So we kind of, I guess we're still in the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, allegedly,
Sort of
I
I
guess.
mean, it's no mask now.
Claiming
So,
Right, we're pretending it's over, but it's,
Right, but
it's not.
they say it ain't, but it really is. We're pretending like it never
Shout out to
happened.
the Delta variant coming soon.
Right, we just decided we were tired of it. Like, nothing,
Right.
nothing really
how do you think
changed.
that's changed how do you think the pandemic changed the psyche of women? Because a lot of women are creatures of ornamentation.
question.
They couldn't go out, so they got all these clothes. They couldn't wear them to post online. They couldn't. What's the point of getting your hair
Right, you're in your
done?
living room
He said,
taking
"I'm
pictures in
You
your
working
outfit.
at home.
Hey, but you know what?
Nail shops was closed. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you see it post Corona?
I think it did have an impact, but from a lot of the women that I've been in contact with, the impact was more positive. It made them focus on themselves.
Exactly.
You know, because now
That's
they couldn't go out to the clubs, and they couldn't go out and do all this, and they couldn't go on dates. So they started thinking about this business idea that they had, and
Right,
and launching businesses and things like that. So that's what I saw from a lot of women. It kind of forced, and even not just women, it forced all of us to really focus on what we want to do. You know, focus on ourselves. Right. So I think that was a positive to come out of it, but I do think, you know, in that aspect, it may have had an impact if you weren't getting maybe, you know, the attention that you wanted or that you were used to, or you were bored, or you weren't able to get out there and meet people. And post, like, to be honest, I feel like we're just going right back to where we were before that. Especially in Vegas. Yeah, it's like everything's open, come out, and so we're right back to it. We just took a year off, and maybe you did something productive with that time, maybe you didn't, but I don't think it's going to have any long-term effects.
Did Vegas take a year off? Hell, people were
Kinda,
still flying
right.
out here
They
coming on the strip. I'm like, what? They walking
Right,
down the strip with a mask on.
right,
I'm like,
right.
damn,
Nothing's
is that
open.
serious?
You're just
Right.
walking around.
I just got to get away.
I think we kind of took the year off. Well, we took part of the year
It
off.
wasn't
Yeah.
as big, but they were still coming. I was like,
Right.
"Yeah, y'all
It was
coming
still
here."
open, just not
Only
100%.
4% was open.
We were at like 70%.
Right.
So we did talk a little bit about the show. You know, you have written, 2 books. You've done TED Talk. I mean, you've done public speaking. So I did want to get into that business, the book business, and what is the process of writing a book? Like, what advice do you tell people? Because there's a lot of people I know that want to write a book, and I think they seem like it's like climbing Mount Everest.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just talk about the process of writing a book and how to effectively build it out and get it out to people, and who you should, you know, your ideal readers, and, you know, things of that nature?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming because there's so much that goes into it, even just the writing in and of itself, because you have an idea, but, you know, to figure out how do you flesh out that idea, because you can't just sit down and write a couple of pages and say, this is my point and that's my book. You have to figure out how to turn it into a story.
Right.
So my first recommendation, because I've ghostwritten books for a couple of people, I don't do it anymore, but the first thing we usually do is an outline.
Okay.
Yeah, so an outline, like, what's your thesis statement? I don't know if you've ever gone to college, you know, if you're going for an advanced degree, they ask you for a thesis statement, and what's the main point of, you know, what your paper will be, your topic.
Right.
So first figure out a thesis statement. So mine would be to empower women to detach themselves from relationship status.
Right.
So when you think about your story, think about what your thesis statement is. What's the one point that you want to get across with your book? And then you develop an outline underneath that. So if it's about, you know, growing up without parents, and your point is to encourage other people who never knew their parents. So you may have the first chapter about learning what happened to your parents, and then it's, you know, having to live with your grandparents, and then maybe the next one is how kids at school treated you, not having parents, and then what you think you've learned, what you think you've lost. So
it all has something in common with that.
Yeah, it all ties back into your thesis statement. So I say the first step is to write an outline of the chapters and what you think would fit into the story that you can talk about, and that will help keep you in line and make it not feel so overwhelming, because then it's like, okay, today I'm writing about this, you know, and you just go down, and once you get through that outline, you'll have a book.
Okay. So you mentioned self-publishing. So how can someone, like, okay, I have what I want. I have a, you know, perfect, you know, fictional movie about snowball people, you know, and I want to get this book out. So who's they should be looking for? Like, what type of publisher should they be looking for? Things of that nature.
There's pros and cons to traditional and self-publishing. With self-publishing, you have all the creative control. It's faster. Once your book is done, you can have it up on Amazon in under a week, you know, once you have it all uploaded and everything. But then traditional publishing, they do all the work. So that's a bonus from that. Right. Yeah, they do all the work. They'll usually pay you in advance, so you know that you'll make some money from it. And then with self-publishing, you have to do all the marketing and everything yourself to try and sell the book. So there's pros and cons. It's definitely easier to self-publish because, like I said, no one can stop you from putting a book out there if you want to put a book out. If you're trying to go the traditional route, you need someone to give you permission to write this book. You need someone to say, okay, I want to publish this book. You're kind of at their mercy. So I think it just depends on your goals and what you hope to gain from it. But just know if you want to go the traditional publishing route, it's probably going to be a long process. You need a literary agent. You have to pitch them, and then they have to pitch the book companies. And to be quite honest, unless you're like a big name or you have a huge following, it's very difficult to break into traditional publishing. So if you have a story and you are confident in it, and it's a story that needs to be told, and you think it will do well, I would always recommend going self-publishing. I mean, if you have a unique story and you really think it will do well going the traditional route, because there are some benefits like from that. Like I said, you get an advance, they do the marketing, they can get you in contact with all these big media publications. Yeah, you can go that route too. It's just about deciding what's best for you, but you just have to know the traditional route is going to take a long time.
Gotcha.
So that's like the music business.
Yeah, exactly. No one can stop you from putting a song on
artist.
Apple Music. Yeah, but if you want a deal and you want a label to do it, that's going to take some time.
Take some time to do it. Right.
Gotcha. Just one last thing, just about the book writing process. So, what is some of your feedback that you've gotten, like, from some of your readers? Like, do you stay in touch with them? Like, do they like message you or reach out to you?
Yeah, I have a lot of reviews on Amazon, and then some people do find me on Instagram and send me messages. The most interesting feedback for me has come from men who read the book. Like, I love to hear what men have to say about it. And right, yeah, and so far, the men that have reached out to me have all been like, oh, I love this book. It was so good. It helped me change my perspective and really think about how I'm interacting with women. Yeah, so that's normally what I get from men. And then, of course, women are like, yes, girl, tell it, and, that kind of thing. So I love it. I love that it's reaching both and that the message isn't being skewed into something negative. The fact that men can even appreciate it tells me that I did my job and not being biased, and that it maintained the positive message that I wanted it to maintain, which is, just be mindful of the way that you interact with women and the way that you look at women, and don't reduce women to their relationship status.
Dope. So just real quick, just tell everybody how to get access to your book, follow you on social media, kind of like all the services that you offer. Okay.
Single That: Dispelling the Top 10 Myths of the Single Woman is the title of the book. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, any major online bookstores. You can follow me on all social media platforms at AcamiaLD. That's ACAMEALD. My website is acamiadeadweiler.com. And right now I've kind of focused on just writing for myself, and I'll do some speaking engagements and things like that, but that's kind of it in the way of what I'm offering, just because that's what my schedule allows.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you very much for joining us and speaking your message.
Yeah.
Grateful. We have to have you back on soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This was great.
So, everybody, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Episode 7 next week. Holla back at you.
Peace.
Yeah. Why they so jealous? Natural. DT 702.